in this budget, and in particular the tax changes that are incorporated into the Taxation Budget Measures Bill that we're discussing this evening. Sir, let's start with the reduction in the marginal tax rates. There is a significant reduction in marginal tax rates. Those whose annual income is $14,000 or less will see their marginal tax rate drop from 12.5 cents to 10.5 cents. Those earning from $14,000 to $48,000 will see a reduction from 21 to 17.5. Those from 48 to 70 from 33 to 30, and finally those on incomes above 70 down to 33 cents. Sir, much more was possible in terms of reduction in marginal tax rates, but at least that is a good first start on the government. The government has also moved to close loopholes, and in particular loopholes around qualifying companies, and in particular the tax advantages that are available through investment in residential and commercial property, and the move to restrict depreciation claims on property, sir, is a move to see a rebalancing of the economy, and that has to be commended. We've also got, sir, the reduction in company tax rates from 30 down to 28 cents from the beginning of the 2011 tax year. And finally, sir, there's the moves to incentivise savings with the setting of a maximum tax rate of 28 cents in the dollar for portfolio investment taxes or PIs. Sir, one can look at the impact of those tax changes that are contained in this bill on page 9 of the budget. In fact, those members who have got budgets might be interested to have a look at page 9, because what it shows the effect of the various changes, whether it be the reductions in personal income tax, the increases in GST, or the changes to benefits on people on various incomes. And in particular, sir, it shows those households earning an annual income of $40,000 or less have a net impact from these tax changes of 0.7%, so 0.7 of 1%. Those earning, and I suspect the great bulk of households in New Zealand, those earnings, well, certainly working households, those earning between 40 and 85,000, well, their net benefit, sir, is 0.4%, and those earning in excess of 85,000, sir, their net impact is 0.7. And the Minister of Finance, I guess, summarises that very nicely when he says at the bottom of page 25 of the budget documents, he says, on average, most New Zealanders receive roughly a 0.5 to 1% increase in real disposable. Most New Zealanders will receive, on average, 0.5 to 1% increase in disposable income. It's not much, sir, but you could say it's better than nothing. Well, sir, I wish that was the full story, but it's not. It's not, Mr. Speaker, because what both the government and the Labour opposition ignore, sir, is we have, starting on the 1st of July, an ETS tax. We have a tax on energy, a tax on electricity, and I'm interested in the barracking from the government, sir, because the government members should be ashamed. The government members should be ashamed, sir, and the reason they should be ashamed, sir, is that the New Zealand Treasury estimate the impact of the emissions trading scheme from the 1st of July will be to add 5% to the price of electricity, 4 cents per litre to the price of petrol, and those costs will flow throughout the whole economy. They'll flow into food, they'll flow into everything that New Zealanders purchase. And so the Reserve Bank calculate that the annual effect in the first year of the emissions trading scheme will be to add 0.4% to CPI. 0.4. So where does that leave this budget? Where does that leave this budget that Mr English and Mr Key are so very proud of? The budget that says average New Zealanders, on average most New Zealanders, will receive roughly a 0.5 to 1%. Well, sir, those people on 40 to 85,000, which this document shows on page 9, get a 0.4% benefit, will be left with absolutely nothing. Zero. And the members of the National Party, do I hear a comment, whose side am I on? Well, it's interesting. I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased the members actually asked that question, because I find myself more and more actually having to stand up and represent her constituents, because overwhelmingly members of the National Party are opposed to the emissions trading scheme, sir. I have them tell me that, sir, at meetings I've conducted up and down the country. And it was with a great deal of interest that I read, sir, that members of the National Party at their Central North Island regional conference on the weekend actually moved, or a subset of them moved, sir, to a resolution unanimously that the National Party should be delaying the introduction of the emissions trading scheme. And how interesting also to hear the Labor Party talk about the impact of this budget on working people's incomes and their expenditure. And I've heard Mr Goff and Mr Cunliffe talk about the increase in GST, the increase in GST and how inflation was going up. Well, sir, there is actually one thing that the National Party can be proud of. They can be proud of the fact that they're only putting electricity up by 5% because the Labor Party would have done it by 10%. That's right. That is the one thing and the only thing, sir, that the emissions trading scheme has got to commend it, is the fact that had there not been a change of government, we would have had an emissions trading scheme from the 1st of January, which Treasury said would have increased electricity by 10%. And the National Government is confident, they're relaxed about the fact that they're only increasing electricity, petrol and the flow-on effect of those things, sir, by 5% from the 1st of July. And, sir, the impact of that is there for all to see, all New Zealanders to see. On page 9 of the budget, households earning between $40,000 and $85,000 get a net impact of 0.4%, and the impact, sir, the Reserve Bank tell us of the ETS, sir, the ETS rather, is 0.4%. So everything that this budget purports to give to those people, sir, is taken away, and it's taken away from the 1st of July, 3 months before these tax changes that we're debating in this bill come into effect. Sir, but it's actually worse than that. It's actually worse than that, because if you look at the position of superannuitants, and the Minister of Finance goes on to say, he says here very generously, he says that the package will provide from the 1st of October 2010 an immediate lift in the levels of New Zealand superannuation, all main benefits, student allowances and working for families payments. This will be sufficient to offset the estimated impact on prices due to the rise in GST. Well, isn't that generous of the Minister of Finance, and isn't that generous of the National Government to be making adjustments to superannuation that will be sufficient to compensate for the increase in GST? What about the increase in electricity? What about the 5% increase in electricity? What about the flow-on effect throughout the whole New Zealand economy? What about the 0.4% that the Reserve Bank of New Zealand says this ETS is going to cause, sir? What about that, sir? There's no reference to compensation there. One thing I will say, sir, is that beneficiaries, those who have their benefits adjusted by CPI, will receive an adjustment, and that will be carried forward, sir, because those benefits adjusted by CPI. But superannuitants, people listening to this debate tonight, those people over 65 relying substantially on New Zealand superannuation will be receiving no permanent compensation for those increases in electricity and petrol, sir. So let's now turn to page number 15 of the budget document. Let's turn to page 15. We see there in 2011, sir, that the cost of the emissions trading scheme is some $907 million. $907 million. The following year, $275 million. And I've heard the Minister of Climate Change tell this Parliament we have to proceed with these electricity increases because we've got this massive cost. We've got this massive cost of the emissions trading scheme. Well, to hear the leader of the Green Party tonight, she was talking about the subsidies for polluters. Well, sir, this is not a subsidy for polluters. These payments, this $1.3 billion, these aren't payments to polluters, sir. I'm sure she was referring to people who emit carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide is not a pollutant, but that's a totally separate argument, sir. What is this, sir? This is $1.3 billion paid to people who planted trees in the 1980s and 1990s. That's right, sir. 80,000 hectares were planted in trees every year through the 1990s. The people who planted those trees had no expectation of a subsidy. That's what they're getting, and they're getting that courtesy as taxpayer, and every single New Zealander is going to have to pay for that, sir. It's a disgrace. If the National Party politicians won't represent their members, the ACT Party certainly will. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I regret to advise the member that his time